Hey y'all, welcome back. So we are keeping it going with these Thanksgiving and holiday themed recipes, and now we're tackling some desserts, and I'm super hyped. I'm actually having a lot of fun filming these videos, and I'm getting like more and more excited every time I get to share something new with y'all. So this time we're making a pound cake. This is actually my grandmother's pound cake recipe. I've spent many hours in the kitchen with her making this recipe, and those are memories that I will always hold dear to me, and they will always be fond memories. So this video is dedicated to her. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I got a big bowl here. You will need a big bowl. This is not something you can make in a small bowl. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take some room temperature butter. I'm using the salted butter, but you can use unsalted if you want. Either one works. I always just use the sweet cream butter. And I'm going to add in 3 sticks. If you have a stand mixer, this is definitely the time to whip it out, because this takes a good amount of time as far as like whipping the butter up with the sugar. So yes, use that bad boy if you got one, but I don't, so I'm gonna use a hand mixer. So I'm gonna go ahead and whip the butter first, just a little bit, and then I'm gonna add in the sugar. Okay, so my bowl's trying to fly everywhere, so I'm gonna put a wet towel underneath it so it'll hold it in place. The next step is the sugar, and this is just plain granulated sugar, and you're gonna need 3 cups. And this is not one of those recipes that will allow you to just dump everything into the bowl. You have to kind of take your time with this one. You have to do everything in a particular order. Otherwise, your results might not turn out like you want. So keep that in mind when you decide to make this. It's not that time consuming, but you got to kind of do things the right way. So I'm going to go ahead and whip the butter and sugar, or cream the butter and sugar together. And I will show you exactly what it's supposed to look like, but it's going to take maybe about 5 minutes to get it there. So you'll see that it works in stages. So this is kind of the first stage that you come to when you're doing this creaming process. So you're starting to get these crumbles that form, and then you'll continue to whip it, and I'll show you the next stage. Okay, so here's the next step. You can see that we are beyond like the crumbly stage, and now we're in like this looks like a cookie dough to me. So this is kind of like the next stage, but this is still not where you want to end up. So just keep whipping. So this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a super creamy mixture. You're looking for pretty much no resistance as you're moving through it with the mixer. This is a great time to walk away if you're using a stand mixer and just let it do its thing. But do not skip this step, because this is how you get all of that air into the butter. Some kind of chemical reaction happens between the butter and the sugar, and it creates, I think the sugar crystals kind of slice through the butter and create this aerated texture. And you want all that, so do not skip this. So now that we're there, we're going to move on to the next step, and that is to add 6 eggs, one at a time, mixing in between each addition. So here we go. We got all the eggs incorporated and it's looking good already. So now we're gonna start adding in the flour, and it's gonna take 3 total cups of flour to complete this recipe, and then you wanna alternate that with milk. So I'm gonna do 3 cups of flour, 1 at a time, and 1 total cup of milk. So it's gonna be about 1/3 cup of milk after each cup of flour. You could also substitute sour cream for some of the milk. You could use cream cheese for some of the milk. Recently, I didn't have one of the extracts that I use in this recipe, and I felt like it didn't have enough flavor. So what I did was put a little bit of coffee creamer in it, and that gave it great flavor and it worked perfectly. So if you wanted to do a flavored pound cake, you could definitely add a coffee creamer to flavor it. So many possibilities. But let's go ahead and do the flour and milk. And I'm using 2% milk. I always just use 2% milk because I never have whole milk, but you could probably do evaporated milk if you have that, or whole milk. And I'm using plain all-purpose flour. I'm not using cake flour, but you can. Sometimes she would use cake flour. A lot of the time she would sift her flour. I don't do that, and it still turns out perfectly good. But I do kind of fluff the flour up inside the bag before I put it in. So now it's time to add in the salt, baking powder, and also the extracts and flavorings that we're gonna use. So I'm gonna use vanilla extract as well as lemon. And do not skimp on the extracts. You want it to have a lot of flavor, like a lot. If it doesn't taste flavorful while it's in batter form, it won't be flavorful when it's baked. So I would say I probably do at least 2 tablespoons of each one, honestly speaking. Then we're gonna go in with the baking powder, and she always did 3 to 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And then we're gonna do a teaspoon of salt. When this hits your nose, after you start mixing it up, after you put those extracts in, you'll understand why you need them. So just try it. Like, I know it might sound like a lot. I know that it's probably not what you're used to, but trust me, you need it and it's bomb. And this is exactly what you're looking for. You want it to form those ribbons while you're mixing it. You want it to be silky and airy and just, So I went ahead and scraped the bowl down, and now I'm gonna give it one final mix and we will pop it into the pan. And I always use a tube pan when I'm making this because that's what she used. She actually bought me this one, and it comes in 2 pieces. So what you can do is lift the cake out like that once it's done cooking, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to remove the cake from the pan. But what I will say is, if you have a 2-piece tube pan like this one, sometimes if you don't flour it really well in the bottom, the batter can seep out through the bottom, and it can create some issues and burning and smoking in your oven, and you're just losing your cake. So you don't really want to do that. So definitely add some extra flour to kind of clog up this part around the edges, so you can avoid that. And as far as greasing the pan, normally what I do is take some cooking spray, and then I take some flour, and I will just kind of take the flour like this and go around the pan and make sure that it's coated that way. And then I just hold it, turn it over, and get the extra flour out that way. But I wanted to try the baking spray this time. I'm still gonna add a little bit of flour though, just because, like I said, I don't want to run into that issue where the batter seeps out. If you want to use a bundt pan for this recipe, you can use that as well. You could really do whatever you want. That's up to you. So I found this baking spray at Aldi, decided to give it a try. And you want to make sure that you're also hitting this part, because it will stick there too. And now I'm going to add just a little bit of flour, just so that I can get it into that crevice. I'm making such a mess trying to do this while filming. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in a 350-degree oven, and it's gonna take at least an hour to bake. What I will say is, try not to open the oven door if you don't have to, but after about 45 minutes, if it's getting kind of brown and you don't want it to go too much further than that, drop the temperature down to 325 so it can continue baking, but it won't get too brown. I could scrape the bowl completely, but I don't, because I want to leave a little bit for them to have the bowl. I always got to have the bowl when I was younger, and the spoon and these, so I try to save all this stuff for them so they can eat the batter. That's just one of those things that happens in your childhood that you don't forget, and I want my kids to have those same fond memories, so I always save a little bit of cake mix inside the bowl for them. So I just pulled the cake out of the oven. You know it's done when you touch the top and it springs back, and also if you were to stick a toothpick or something in, it will come out pretty much clean. If it has like 1 or 2 crumbs on it, I still go with it because you want your cake to be moist and not dry. So I'm gonna give this like 15 minutes to cool down a little bit before I take it out of the pan. So it's been about 15 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is take this paring knife. You want something like kind of a slim knife, and just go around the edges of the pan with it. I can already feel that this cake is already kind of pulling away from the pan, so that's good. You can see that there's barely anything on the knife even after doing that. So now I'm just gonna lift it out. If you're trying to lift it and it doesn't come out, if you have this 2-piece pan, what you can do is take this and run it here so you can see what's stopping it. Just kind of loosen that up. And now you can see it's much more willing to come out. So now I can lift it out without any problems. So this cake looks perfect. So this is completely up to you, but what I've taken to doing lately is just leaving it on this middle piece and just cutting it from here. And that is definitely an option for you if you don't want to risk messing it up trying to unmold it. But you can also just flip it out onto a plate. And one more thing you can do if you know that you want to get it off of here, is take your knife and loosen it up here, so you can run your knife this way too. And that will also help you to loosen it up so that when you turn it off, when you turn it out onto a plate, it won't like rip your cake. So that's what I'm gonna do, just because I need to take pictures of it and I need it to look pretty. So right on this thing. Okay, so here we go. This is the tricky part. In order to flip your cake, you put your plate on top. And then you kind of got to do it all in one motion. It's still hot, so I'm going to put a pot holder underneath. Put my plate on top. And 1, 2, 3, boom. And here is my cake. You could leave it upside down. She always left hers upside down. But what I'm going to do is flip it onto its right side. And I like this plate better, so I'm going to put it back on here. And there we go. We have a beautiful pound cake. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut it for y'all so you can see what the inside looks like. I want you to be able to see the crumb and all that. I want you to know exactly what this cake is supposed to look like. You can see that the slice came out perfectly. There's no falling. nothing weird happened to it in the oven. So taking your time and really making sure to cream the butter and sugar together and just add every egg in separately and doing that whole process really makes a difference in the outcome of your cake. So I hope you guys try this recipe and let me know if you do and what you think about it. And that is it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe and send this video to someone that you think might enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.